Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy Sunday. I just got home from the 413 card show in Chicopee, Mass. Um, very happy that show ended at 2 o'clock today. So I didn't have to be that guy rolling my stuff out a couple hours early. I'm always happy on a Sunday show that ends early, like 1 or 2 o'clock. I'm all in for those shows. As you can see, I still have the Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium background up. If you're watching on YouTube, undefeated, right? Doing very well. A much deserved week off this week. So why they're undefeated, I'm still going to keep Arrowhead up as my background. Last week on my long drive home from New Jersey, and I stressed the long part, I figured out how to listen to Red Zone in the car while I was driving. So the drive home from Massachusetts today was a very pleasant drive. No traffic coming home, thank goodness, but just being able to listen to all the games at once. And if you've watched Red Zone or you listen to it, you know, it's just rapid fire from game to game to game. So you just feel updated on every single game that's going on. Love me some Red Zone. That's where I spend. If I'm home on a Sunday, I spend it. If I'm not here recording or putting this together for you, I'm on the couch watching Red Zone. Before I recap the 413 show, I got to thinking on the way home while I was thinking about, doing an episode today when I got home. What would it be on? What's today's episode going to be? And I started thinking to myself, when I get back home, go back to last year or even last year and the year before and see what episodes I was doing, what I was talking about, what I was doing in the hobby, what it looked like a year ago and what it looked like 2 years ago. And interestingly enough, if it wasn't for the fact that I was actually doing just a different show, the content remains the same. I could almost put the replay some of those old episodes if I wanted, right? The content remains the same. So 2 years ago, I did an episode almost to the day talking about changing up dealer strategies in a slowing market. And 1 year ago, downshifting in the hobby and talking about it being very slow now, coming off doing shows and the shows being slow and not, it's interesting because we go through this stretch of May, June, July, August, right? And even into September. And it's like the shows are busy. It's the national, it's all these great shows all summer. And, it's the build up to these shows. And then all of a sudden, the football season gets going, and then September, October, November, when I go back and I look year after year after year, it's the same thing. It's a slowing market. It's the market slowing down. And every year we talk about it trending down from the end of August, beginning of September, right through to December, right? And even into January. The only difference I see when I'm looking back at those episodes and compare to what I'm seeing today is I think shows have just been a lot slower. And I've been talking a lot about too many card shows, right? So if we go back 2 years, right, when there was a major show going on, there may have been like a local show going on, but a lot of the people that would have been at that local show ended up being at the bigger show, right? Whether it was Hofstra in Long Island or a last show in New Jersey or, a Westchester show. If there was one show, it was like one big show. And these are the types of shows I've been doing in the fall the last couple of years. But now there's all these new shows. There's so many new shows coming out. I was talking to people today. They're like, "Oh, are you doing Glastonbury? Are you doing East Haven? Are you doing this? Are you doing that?" And it was like such rapid fire. And I'm like, "What weekend? What weekend?" And it's just every single weekend, and most of them are overlapping on the weekends. And I'm like, "This is the problem with the hobby. I mean, there's just too many shows. And why are people starting new shows? Why are new shows starting when we can't even fill the existing shows that are going on now? I don't understand it. And you know, the only person making out there is the promoter, right? Because if he's selling the tables and people are buying the tables, he's getting paid up front, right? So whether one person comes in or 1,000 people come in, he gets paid, right? So I don't know. Do we keep supporting? And this is something I think we all have to think about. Do we keep supporting all these new shows, or do we step back and say there's just too many shows? Let's, can't these group of people just get together and have one show instead of having three shows over the course of a weekend, or two shows on a weekend, or three shows on the same day? Um, I mean, I just think there needs to be better communication there. Um, the other thing I see is even when the shows are busy, people really aren't spending a lot of money. In past years, when a show was slow, I was still selling, right? And maybe not selling a lot, right? But even on past years when a show was slow, people were still coming in to buy, right? Um, so even slow shows were great shows, right? Because it was selling. And when a show was slow for me in the past few years, a lot of it was my issues. A lot of it was my inventory issues, right? I'm the guy, and you go back and you listen, that I learned from all my mistakes, couldn't listen to anybody else. I needed to do it myself. Where people said, "Oh, you think you're the only one that thought about going down, going into that lane or selling this or selling that. There's a reason why nobody else is selling those cards at the show." But I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to bring in different things and try to sell, and there really wasn't a big market for it. And every time I kept coming back, and my savior was always football, right? Always football. So then it got to a point where I just said, "You know what? I'm just going to do the football. I'm going to forget about all these other things." And it changed a lot about me being a dealer and how successful I was at shows, because now I had inventory that the majority of the people wanted. um so I've really cleaned up my inventory issues over the last couple of years. Just putting the work in, just trial and error and figuring it out. I know what sells now. I'm able to spot stale cards, and I know how to stay away from them. But this year's definitely has a different feel to it. Uh, and even today's show definitely had a different feel to it. You know, I'm going to speak for myself first, and then I'll just talk about some of the conversations I had with other dealers today. So the 413 card show, today's show, Sunday only, 9 to 2, Chicopee, Mass. It was a well put together show. And I talked about on the last episode that I did this show back in the spring, and it was a very busy show. I did very well at this show. So I was hoping for more of the same today. Well put together show, a ton of advertisement for this show. Had you know autographs station set up, had athletes coming in to do some autographing, so another draw to bring people in. They had great giveaways and door prizes. They had Patriot tickets. They had uh Springfield Indian tickets, just a lot of stuff, and coupons that you could use throughout the show. So, the promoters did everything to make this a successful show. And by 11 a.m., right, show is a 9 to 2. By 11 a.m., the parking lot was full, right? I had people coming in saying, and this show was in a plaza, saying the whole parking lot's full. We were parking across the street. And I'm looking around, I'm like, yeah, there's just a lot of people in the room here. Um, Tons of foot traffic, but not a lot of people buying. Uh, Not a lot of people spending money. What I saw that people were buying from what I'm observing around where I am in my area is people were just buying low end singles, anything from the $5 to $15 up to $20. I mean, that seemed to be what the bulk of what people were buying and what they were looking to buy. Um, and a ton of people selling, um, mostly low end stuff, but still a ton of people, bringing their stuff in and hoping they could move it at the show. Um, I walked around the room before the show started, uh, and my 2 lanes, and this is no surprise, I talk about this weekly, right? My 2 lanes, when setting up is football and, NCAA women's basketball, the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and the WNBA stuff, right? Where they are now. So those are my 2 lanes. That's what I'm doing. That's what I mostly do. That's what works for me. Um, And I like to walk around and look to see what my competition looks like in the morning, what people are selling, what they're asking. Are they high? Are they low? Are we about the same? Um, I only saw 2 other people with women's basketball cards. And and although a number of people had football cards, I assume my table was gonna be somewhat popular, with with those cards that are priced in the range from 500 to 2K, you know, it stops people. It stops people to say, "Oh, look, that's a beautiful card," right? Then I have enough of the 50 to $300 cards, which people mostly end up buying, right? No, not a lot of people show up to spend, a lot of money, but they stop because they see those nice cards and then they end up buying something smaller. They find something they like. So I had a pretty good feeling before the show started that I was going to sell a bunch of football today. Um, I did have extra space. We had 3 tables between 2 of us. So I did bring 2 extra cases. And in the 2 extra cases, I put the women's soccer that I usually bring in a 2-row box, that I put on the side of my cases. I pulled them out of the 2-row box and I spread them all out in the cases. So I filled up 4 cases today on the table and a half that I was on. This was the first time I had that much women's soccer in my cases at a show since the SoCo Expo in Cleveland. And in fact, I don't even know how well the pricing was on it. I was starting to try to go through while they were out during the downtime and, see if I could start changing some of these prices. I also had or have one Paige Becker's Bowman U refractor numbered to 100. And I have that in the case with the Caitlin Clark, the Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and those. And I put that in there, just the one card in there, because I know a lot of people in this area are really looking for her cards now. I get asked a lot every time, every show, do you have any Paige Becker's cards? So I take one card, I put it in the case, right? It's going to bring people in. It's going to stop. They're going to want to look at it at least, and we'll start a conversation. By far, that was the most popular card in my case today. You would think it was Caitlin Clark, and a lot of people. Caitlin is still popular, right? She's still what people are looking for. But and I talked to a number of people about this today. I think what happened with the Caitlin Clark cards that they were selling so well, but I think they just got priced out. And I talked about this on a couple episodes that those cards that were in the price range that even people who weren't really big collectors or in the hobby that will come by and they want a Caitlin Clark card, right? It was affordable. Now Caitlin Clark cards are so expensive. People show up and they're like, "Oh, do you have Caitlin Clark?" And they're like, "Oh my God, that's so expensive. Is that what they're selling for now?" And it's priced a lot of people out of wanting to get it. And a lot of people today showing up and asking, "Oh, do you have the box? Do you sell the boxes that the cards come out of?" I said, "They're not out yet. They'll be out soon, but they're not out now." And I think that's going to change a lot too. Um, once a lot of people have access to these boxes that are going to start showing up in Target and Walmart and things like that. But by far, Page today was a pretty popular card. I pulled that card probably out of my case 6, 7 times, let people have a look at it. Still have the card, right? There's only it's numbered to 100, so it's an expensive card. So people really need to be committed if they want to buy that card. So what did I sell today? Speaking of the Caitlin Clarks, I sold 3 Caitlin Clarks today, all under $100. The lower end, again, what I think people could find affordable. And I sold a handful of soccer cards, right? Very surprised in the soccer cards. Um, Nobody showed any interest in the football. A lot of people came up and they looked at it, they walked up, they pointed, and they said, "Wow, hey, that's a nice card," or "That's a nice card," or commented on something. I didn't sell any football cards today, and I had just gotten that CJ Stroud downtown, just got it back from PSA. Was excited to bring it to the show and put it right in the middle of my case. People were like, "Wow, yeah, wow, that's a great card. Nice, 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 nice." Yeah, just kept walking. I mean, no. I knew in one of my boxes that I had, a row of, $3 to $10 cards that I keep bringing to the show football. I keep bringing to the show saying I got to really figure out. They were all like Don Russ and Optic and things like that. And I said, "You know what? I'm just going to put those out because I think that's what people are looking for." So I put those out and I sold a handful of those cards today, but they weren't in the cases. They were in the side. They were in a discount box and they were, like I said, $3 to $5 cards. It's what people were looking for today. Um, Definitely a lot more conversation over the women's basketball and the soccer cards. And I tell you, it's interesting with the soccer cards. People are always showing up at the shows and they see the women and immediately they're like, "Do you have men? Do you have men?" And I talk to the people who do men's soccer and they set up at the shows and they're like, "Oh, I never sell anything. It's a waste. It's nobody ever buys it." But I know people are asking for it. So there must be some disconnect of the right card or the right price or, for whatever reason, or maybe just not the right players or the right cards. But people are always looking for the men's soccer stuff. And it really takes a lot for me to say, when somebody's selling and I'm going through and I'm like, "Oh, look, is a couple nice soccer cards." I'm like, "No, no, that men's soccer used to be our lane. It's not our lane anymore. Let it go." Let it go. So, so there's no surprise, right? There's no surprise that Caitlin Clark is still, the most looked at cards in the case. But the soccer, I was surprised, and I've carried these 2-row box. I mean, ever since the national, every show I go to, I put it up there and people thumb through it. Nobody now today I sold a handful of those cards. So I was excited about that. So when I say today's show had a different feel to it, in recent shows, there's been very low foot traffic, uh, but still able to make some decent sales. Today was a ton of foot traffic and barely had any sales. Um, I had a great location. I wasn't at the front door. I was by the front door. Had a great location. Um, so I was excited that, I put my buying sign up. I was hoping that I was gonna, if nothing, maybe it'll just be a good buying opportunity, uh, at the show and go through some cases and find some cards. But I tell you, it was a rough day. I went through so many cases today, and I only bought one card. I'll share that with you at the end on my pickups. Um, it was a numbered insert, and after I bought the card, at low end, it was a low end card, but it's graded, and it was a PSA 10 numbered insert. And after buying this one, and I went to go put it in my case, and I have 3 other similar numbered inserts, PSA 10 in my case. I started laughing to myself. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely a pattern here. I have a thing for these numbered insert cards. And it's almost that people, they show up too and they see like, oh, wait a minute, we got a guy here who likes these cards, like I got a couple I'm trying to get rid of, and they, and I seem to be the guy who wants to buy them. But anyways, what are the other dealers saying? Pretty much the same thing. They feel the hobby is down. They feel there's too many shows, not enough money being spent. Um, I talked to uh, I talked to a dealer within the last couple days that has a booth in Chantilly, and said, "Look, I found somebody to take that booth for me. Just I really don't have, it's a lack of inventory, and it's expensive to travel down there to that show, pay for the booth, pay for the hotel, the meals, everything else, the travel, the gas." Said, "Look, it's just not a good time of year right now for me to be doing that." And I've talked to a few dealers who've signed up for the Fanatics Orlando show, and also saying the same thing. They're like, I was excited, I signed up for it. Nah, it's a lot of travel expenses. And they're afraid they won't even break even, or even worse, it's gonna lose they're gonna lose money. Um, traveling down there, setting up, paying for the table, and of course, Fanatics, it's not only the table, you have to rent their cases as well. And we talk about this all the time. I mean, in the hobby, you could go down and sell a ton of cards, but it's the profit that's coming out, and those margins are getting slimmer and slimmer, right? Um, is this the time of year that it's just not a good time of year to have these big shows, heading into the holidays, with the margins in the market being so tight? Does it make sense to spend a lot on expenses traveling to shows this time of year if the shows aren't well traveled or people aren't spending a lot of money? Um, I mean, you take that risk as a dealer, you're taking that risk to go. And then on the other hand, I mean, does it benefit the attendee? I mean, does the attendee say to myself, look, it's a lot of expenses, I know, and I can get to one of these big shows, fairly inexpensive. Can I get in there and make some great deals? Am I the guy showing up in the room with the cash, and I can get these cards way under comps because dealers have to make sales in order to make money to pay for expenses, right? So I mean, that works both ways on that too. I think when it comes to the holidays and the time of year, um, I think individually it's a different answer for a lot of us. Um, I know I had the opportunity to do the Nashville show. I'm going to say in October because I think it's next weekend, um, but I don't remember exactly the date offhand. But I chose to do it in February, right? Not because it's just easier for me to go there in February versus next week, because it's, if I thought next week was going to be a very successful show, I would have gone. I just have a feeling from talking to people and hearing these bigger shows that people are going and just not getting the sales they're expecting. Makes me say, you know what? Maybe I'll just put the brakes on a little bit, and I could wait to the new year to hit some of these bigger shows. I remember last year going to doing Culture Collision at the end of January, and it was a super busy show. I was surprised. I mean, when you're, the end of the year, the December, January, the shows are kind of slow, right? Um, I just felt it was a better time of year to go to a bigger show because I think the holidays were over. People were getting back out. They were spending money. They were spending money on travel. There was a lot of people at that show in January of last year. And even in the hotel, you can go back and listen to those episodes. The trade nights in the hotel were going to like 3, 4 in the morning, right? It was just so much was going on there. And I was was shocked. I was shocked, and I thought to myself, "Wow, I really need to travel out to these hotels more." But then somebody said to me, "It's like it just depends on the time of year. Some of these shows are much better than the other times of the years." What do you think? Do you tighten your budget up this time of year? Uh, is there a time of year in the hobby that you spend less for any reason, or don't go to shows for any reason? Or is there a time you're saying, "Hey, this is a time now. I want to go into sell mode. I want to, go to shows and just sell off my cards." Um, I was set up with Rich, Zwittlebug Cars today, just like the last show we're set up at. Uh, I said in the morning, I said, "I'm pretty motivated on a couple of my football cards. I'm sure they're going to sell today." And we have these conversations, before the show opens up and we're setting up our stuff. And at the end of the show, I said, "I never had a chance. No one ever asked on I never had a chance to negotiate." Now, last week I did a whole episode on negotiating, right? Saying we can get this done a whole lot quicker. It doesn't have to drag out. And today it never even happened. So, um, and I said on Thursday's episode, this was going to kind of be a little bit of barometer I felt for this area. Uh, and the foot traffic didn't disappoint. It did not. Um, I just felt like people weren't just they weren't spending the money today. Many other dealers saying the same thing. I heard the phrase, a lot of tire kickers. I heard that phrase more than once today from a number of people. So it's the time of year. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised, right? Maybe, and even in my mind, I talk about it, but when I go back and look back a year ago and 2 years ago, it seemed like we're going through the same thing. So I shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised about this. Tell me what you think. The pickups I talked about, I picked up this card. Let's get a little wrapper here. So this was the numbered insert. It's a 2023 Mosaic Josh Allen Epic Performance Reactive Blue PSA 10, and it's numbered to 99. So I have 3 similar cards like this now. The other pickup I had was not at the show. Pickup I picked up online this week that I'm happy to share. It's a 2023 Bowman U Best Hannah Hidalgo, best of 2023 auto gold to 50. So I'm starting to expand a little on my prospecting here, seeing that the Juju Smith card, Juju Smith. um, the the Paige Becker's card, these cards are getting, too expensive to even try to prospect on right now. And the Juju Watkins cards, I think I almost wanted to say Juju Smith-Schuster. The Juju Watkins card, you're trying to buy these cards. It's just like an insane amount of money right now. What they're costing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I can't keep buying into them at that. So I'm starting to look a little deeper. Now this is a little more deep dive prospect on some other people. But I don't mind doing it because the price that I'm paying on an auto gold to 50 was so inexpensive that I'll probably buy 3 or 4 more just like it and just hang on to them and hope that, whoever I'm doing this with, hopefully their team makes a little run in the NCAA tournament, or when they do get ready to go to the WNBA draft, that these cards could and should pop up. So that's all I got for you today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourself and everyone around you.